大家好，我是 Cybercat。特斯拉 FSD Version 12横空出世，应该是最近的一个热门话题它震惊了所有人。我觉得它的深远影响对于整个社会而言都是非常巨大的，因为它是影响了整个交通运输行业，可以说是一个重要的整个社会的经济命脉。很早的时候我就决定说去看一看被它影响的其他industry的人大概会对 Version 12和未来将要推出的这个自动驾驶和 Robotaxi 是怎样的一个反应。我就选择了它最直接的一个影响的 industry 出租行业 Ride Sharing Uber 和 Lyft。最近呢他们两家公司都给了 earning call。我直接就搜索了关键词特斯拉或者 autonomy Robotaxi。毫不意外，我就发现了有好几个分析师的问题是针对于特斯拉 FSD 和 Robotaxi 会不会对 Uber 和 Lyft 的商业帝国产生巨大的影响呢？我们来看看这个Uber 和 Lyft 的 CEO 他们是针对这个比较棘手的问题是怎么样一个回答的方式。他们都没有否认 autonomy 和 Robotaxi 是未来，这一点是两个 CEO 给的共识。但是同时呢，他们两个都表示了整个社会的和产业的转型过程需要一段很长的时间维度才会完成。我觉得他们的意思就是说，虽然这个 Robotaxi 是未来，但是在短期内不会影响Uber 和 Lyft 的赚钱模式这是他们的 point。另外一点我觉得比较有意思，但是我觉得对于我来说不太 make sense 的是那个 Lyft 公司的 CEO， 他表示说这种无人出租车看到是非常昂贵的，所以它不是一个特别经济的模式，而且运营Robotaxi需要一群 operator， 就是说在它出事的时候可能就得去处理一些比较棘手的情况，所以它的成本特别高。我觉得这个就比较片面了。为什么这么说呢？这只是一个目前的状况，而且我觉得 Lyft 公司主要在谈论的是一个 Waymo 的一个 business model， 主要是一个感知融合，用激光雷达加上纯视觉的一个方式。这种方式呢，通常会让车的造价非常的高，可能会达到20到30万美元。但是呢，特斯拉在未来会推出25000的一辆车型，用纯视觉的方式。如果它有这样一个便宜的车型的推出的话呢，它也可以极大的降低它的收费，会让它在 market 上的 pricing 非常的具有竞争力。这个商业模式就很大程度上有可能会被跑通。同时呢，Uber 表示自己已经在这个 autonomy 上做出了一定的努力。可以看到的是 Uber 和 Waymo 进行了一些合作。Uber 还表示说，无论这个世界怎么变， Uber 的这个平台背后的算法怎么去分配这些出租车的所在和这个标价的算价格的方式都会是一个强大的护城河，即使在未来也需要。Lyft 公司也同样表示说，他认为未来的autonomy 和 Robotaxi 的运营需要多方的一个努力。首先是需要有一个 platform， 这就是目前为止 Uber 和 Lyft 在运营的一个东西。第二呢是拥有自动驾驶技术的公司，所以提供这个 FSD Full Self Driving， 对吧？无论是特斯拉还是其他类似的公司。第三就是需要能装这些软件的车，所以需要有车企来参与。第四呢需要是一个 owner， 因为拥有一个庞大的车队是一个非常重资产的事情，所以在未来的话需要有人买这些车。所以大概有这样4方面的因素。Lyft 表示说，即使在未来的很长一段时间内，他也不认为有任何一家公司有能力能够进行垂直整合，把所有的大包大揽，把所有的情况跑通。这给 Lyft 带来的更多是一种机遇。Lyft 可以提供它的这个平台，从而成为未来的 autonomy 和 Robotaxi 中重要的一环。作为特斯拉，我已经拥有了4项中的3项，就是这个自动驾驶技术、制造车的能力，和我可以把这个能自动驾驶的车辆卖给 owner， 然后帮他们管理。唯一我需要自己建立的只是一个平台。Nice。我觉得如果我是 Uber 或 Lyft 的 CEO 的话，我会立即打给 Elon Musk， 要求在我还有现有这个平台的运营和一些背后的算法的优势下，我会向马斯克提出请求说，我们来一起做一个合作。我提供平台和背后的算法或者是一些 service， 以特斯拉来提供软件和制造无人驾驶车辆。 这样一种模式，我们来合作，把这个整个市场能够做大。但是平台的到底它的这个难度，建立这个平台的难度有多少呢？暂时我是没有答案的，至少我觉得这个不会比实现 FSD 要难。所以从这个角度而言，如果我是马斯克的话，也许我也不太会愿意跟 Uber 去进行或者 Lyft 进行一个合作，因为这会降低我的效率，也会把我的蛋糕给分走很大的一块啊。那么未来怎么发展呢？我觉得也其实没法预料。但是我唯一知道的一点，或者我相当肯定的一点，就是特斯拉会是未来这个 Robotaxi 和 Autonomy 中分到最大蛋糕的那一位。那屏幕前的你觉得老马会和 Uber 和 Lyft 合作吗？如果你喜欢这样的分析视频，请帮我点赞加关注，并在评论区告诉我你想听到怎样的分析内容。
Yeah, Justin, in terms of AVs and our strategy, it really remains the same. First thing I would say is that we think that the AV technology at maturity is going to be very good for the industry. It'll be great for Uber. It holds a promise of safer rides. It holds a promise of expanding the marketplace by lowering prices and making mobility delivery available for a wider swath of the population. And usually when we see kind of lower prices for any service, you see higher adoption for a service, and that really is the promise of AV. At the same time, we think that the technology is going to take a lot of time to develop. Obviously, there has to be regulatory framework to put in place. And as the technology develops, we think that actually you're not going to make a jump from one tech, human drivers fully to AV. There's going to be a relatively long period, a transition period that happens, where, for example, on Uber, you see it now, you have a combination of human drivers during human drivers fulfilling certain rides or deliveries, or even loads on the trucking side, along with AVs as well. And over a period of time, you'll see kind of the penetration of AVs increase. I think it's very difficult to predict that period of time. But really what we bring is the systems that we put in place, the pricing, matching, routing algorithms, the payments systems that we have on a global basis, as well as the demand that we bring that enables us to partner with these AV providers to really drive utilization of their assets. This is very expensive tech that's been developed over a long time. And if you're an AV fleet owner or you are an individual owner of a car, whether that's a Tesla or another kind of car, you're just going to make more money and make a higher kind of return on your investment if you plug in your AVs into the Uber ecosystem and into Uber demand. So, we think we bring a lot to the table. We're looking to partner with the AV industry. I do think that there's a good amount of excitement over some of the newer technologies and kind of the imitation models that we see in terms of AV. And you see that promise with Tesla at FSD. It looks like a great product. And also you see that same promise in a lot of smaller players, whether that's a Wave in the UK who got funded for $1 billion, a Wabi that, for example, we have investments in. These imitation learning models have a lot of promise over kind of the more classic heuristic-based development that you saw with AV. And we think it's going to allow more players into the marketplace. We think it's going to reduce the amount of capital required to develop these systems over a long period of time. We're looking to partner with big players and small players. And again, as this technology develops, we think we will be a big partner in it, and we think ultimately it will benefit AV players and it will benefit ourselves and riders and eaters as well.
David, there's been some controversy recently about the Tesla autonomous vehicles and the impact that could have on ride-sharing companies like you and Uber. Just your latest thoughts on how investors should think about the autonomous risk to ride-share companies.
Yeah, sure. So on the first, I would actually characterize it a little differently. I wouldn't say, I understand why you asked the question the way you did around at Tesla, but I would actually qualify it as more of an opportunity than a risk. And here's what I mean by that. So autonomous cars, let's step back. Autonomous cars are definitely coming, right? And if you're in San Francisco, you know it, you see it every day. Sometimes you see good things, sometimes you see things that are a little bit strange, but at the end of the day, they're clearly on the scene. But it's one thing, and I should say a very expensive one thing, to build an autonomous vehicle. Very, very expensive. It's expensive to build it, billions of dollars of R&D. It's expensive to operate it. These things are not free to operate. Absolutely not. They break down, they have repairs, they have shadow drivers in the back, all sorts of things. So anyway, so that's expense that somebody's got to bear. And then it's also very expensive to build a rideshare platform. And I think it's maybe tempting, or maybe it's I don't know, it'd be easy, let's say, to hear someone say, "Oh, well, you just build an app," and you think, "Well, that's a rideshare network." Well, no, that's not a rideshare network. A rideshare network involves conversations with every airport in the United States to figure out how to do pick up and drop offs. It's every municipality in the United States. It's pricing 2 million times a day. It's picking things up 24/7, even in bad weather, even when it's snowing. It's figuring out how to do supply demand management such that you get cars in the right place at the right time, and so on and so on at quite a large scale. And this is obviously expensive. We spend a lot of money on it every single year, as you guys well know. So when I look at it that way, and I look at, and then here's where I'll kind of finish on that. If you think of autonomous, here's maybe the way I might break it down. Somebody has to build that technology, right? And there are companies that are just focused on that. Somebody then has to build the cars, either bring their own homegrown technology into the car or take somebody else's technology. That's the second thing. Then somebody's got to own these cars, right? In the Lyft business model, of course, we don't typically own the car. That's, drivers own their own car, which is great. It means it's very capital efficient for us. We can put 2 million, rides on the road every day and not effectively own a single car asset. So that's great. It means we don't have to spend hundreds of $millions in depreciating assets called cars. And then someone has to build the network and operate the network, and that's what we do. So if I look at it in that context, I get excited about autonomous cars because I think, great, it's going to be another way for people to get around. You can sort of think of it as another car that we could, run into our network. And, personally, if I were sort of running the world, I would sort of think of companies as specializing maybe in one of those areas. I think companies that try to do more than one of those areas might find it very expensive and maybe not such a great use of capital or resource.